Hey everyone, it's the Vigilante. So for today's video, we're going to be talking more about Nintendo. I know some people are probably getting tired of it, but we got some new updates with Nintendo finally sitting there talking about the backlash. So I'm going to sit there and talk about how we got a bunch of fake gamers on YouTube, especially, now probably some on Twitch, but I mainly watch YouTube more than I go on Twitch, where they're trying to help Nintendo scam you guys and rip you off even more. I'm going to dive into these YouTubers, where I'm going to call them out by name, show them the proof, and listen, these YouTubers I'm about to show you, they are nothing more than fanboys. And there's one girl, so a fangirl. They're not real gamers, okay? They are addicted to Nintendo, and they need you to buy and waste your money on their expensive-ass games. So here, stay tuned.
It can actually game, and it looks pretty darn good. And because of that, you're not going to be paying Switch 1 prices, or just have that expectation. When I tell you that the Nintendo Switch 2 is $450, but you don't know that unless you sign in. So I chose that this...
You know, I would keep that in mind, but one thing that you're negating to tell the fans is that in Japan, they are selling the exact same console that is locked in Japan, so you can only get it in Japanese. They are selling that for $330. Okay, so what, magically, because you can only have one language on it, it magically changes from $330 to $450? So you're okay, because I believe you're in America, so you're okay, well, it's the rest of the world, so you're okay with the rest of the world getting ripped off and scammed, but you're fine that they're not doing it to their own people in Japan. Make that make sense, Austin.
Browser didn't sign in, and for you to register your interest, you have to sign in. So once you're signed in, you could choose to register your interest for just the Nintendo Switch 2, which is $450, or the bundle, including Mario Kart World, for $499 USD. The price is different, and scalpers can't buy 80 consoles. You have to have a Switch Online membership for 12 months, so you can't just decide to buy it now and then be okay. And you have to have 50 total gameplay hours. Scalpers don't have those things. They may be able to buy one for themselves, but they're not going to be able to buy a dozen. Bots can't buy a dozen. This is fantastic news for gamers, people like me and you who want to play the game, not keep it in a box and try to sell it at double.
Oh, congratulations, it's $450, and then for the bundle it's $500. Okay, so if we go off of Japan's prices, now this is all before I know that Nintendo has sat there and stopped the pre-order thing for America and Canada due to the tariffs and everything. I completely understand that. But guess what? Okay, at this time it was still $450, but in Japan it's $330. So it's okay that they're not going to rip off and scalp their Japan audience, which I said before, $400 I thought was fair. Now I'm going down to $330. Okay, this console should have been $330 worldwide. That's what it should have been before the tariffs. Now, I am a fair person. I understand that tariffs are going to come into play. Now, at the current price at $450, that's what it should be. Nintendo can't really raise their prices that much more. It is not going to sustain itself here in America and in Canada. Well, I'm not going to speak for Canadians, but here in America, the console is not going to sell that well if they raise it to $600-700 like people are projecting. Nintendo is already out of their mind for raising it up. And then, okay, Austin, I'm sorry, you're not a gamer. You can sit there and say you're a gamer, but you're a fanboy. Because only fanboys and fangirls will accept these price points. Because you do realize if you just refuse to buy it, do you think Nintendo's going to go under? No, they are not going to go under. They are going to sit there and lower the price because they have to make money. Okay, Nintendo is making a killing off of you fanboy and fangirls.
Switch 1. Joy-Con 2 controllers, the pair, $90, that's expected. I'm interested to see how well it will actually work as a mouse, like on PC. Kind of interested in that. But of course, you get a pair of these with the console. The charging grip is $35 for some reason. Why is this piece of plastic $35? Don't buy this. 100% don't buy that. There's going to be a Power A one, or someone else is going to make one at less than half of that, probably $20 or $17. Or if you don't need it to charge, there's going to be $8 ones online. Don't buy them. The all-in-one carrying case, which holds a dock, your Joy-Con charger, the Pro Controller, cables, rails, and a little slot for other stuff. $80? Not for a piece of fabric. Oh, and they're selling their own micro SD card Express. Do we have an official price on that? Nope, not at all. But the SanDisk Extreme Pro micro SD XC card is $103.25. Future Austin, if it says my address in here, please blur that. And that's for a terabyte, which is 4 times the console's internal storage. There's a Lexar one at $199, but the SanDisk micro SD XC for quarter terabyte, which is doubling the system's memory, is $25, down from $28 on Amazon. You have your pick of the litter. The Nintendo ones are typically always more expensive, so save a few bucks there. I mean, I play a lot of
Okay, so let me get this straight. You're okay with them selling you those piece of shit Joy-Cons. That was one of the worst things about the Nintendo Switch 1, was those piece of shit Joy-Cons that were $80, now they're $90. You're okay with that price point, even though they're probably the shittiest controller in the history of controllers. But then you're going to sit there and be like, oh, don't buy the $35 thing. You got your priorities all mixed up here, Austin. Now, I will admit that that piece of plastic is not worth it, nor is the carrying case worth it. And then you sit there and say like, oh, well, Nintendo's SD cards are always more expensive. Save yourself some money. Why aren't you telling people to save yourself some money and getting yourself a better console then and make Nintendo lower their damn prices, huh?
If you don't want to purchase a game, you don't have to. It is your right as a consumer to not buy something. And back when the 3DS came out, it came out at a very high price tag, and they ended up bringing the price down. So they are not immune to this sort of feedback. If you feel strongly about this, that's your right as a consumer. Speak with your wallet. The times are a-changing, and it sucks to see it, but if this helps in any way, shape, or form to the engineers and software developers who are working tremendous hours and overtime and not being compensated for their efforts and having burnout as a daily activity in their structure, and this is a solution, we just had our first game studio be unionized. It was Bethesda. The times are a-changing.
Austin, you can believe that bullshit if you want to. If you want to peddle that nonsense to everybody to get them to buy this, that is completely your choice. And the reason why I left the whole thing in there, like, because I already know people are going to be like, oh, well, you cut out the part where he said that you can vote with your dollar, which is very true. And I'm hoping that people smarten up. But unfortunately, no, because I keep reading articles where it says like, oh, despite the price, people were requesting the price drop, the Nintendo Switch is sold out in other countries. Guess what? That's because the fanboy sat there and went out and bought it. I knew at the $450 price it was going to pay. Now, if they jack up the price to $600-700 like people are projecting, it is not going to sustain itself in the North American market. I promise you that one. It might sell initially, but for longevity, it is not going to sell. Just remember, the Wii U did fail. Maybe people forget that, but it did fail. And when it comes to that 3DS, and they dropped the price, one thing he's getting to say is because something that was far better and far superior was coming out around the corner, which was the PSP, which is still the best ever. Now, I really hope that the rumors are true with Nintendo making another handheld. Or not Nintendo, I mean PlayStation. Please, PlayStation, make another handheld. Now, I'm going to sit there and let you know on this one, Austin, because you didn't choose to do your research. If you actually believe that that extra money is going to them to sit there and pay it, I got a beachfront property to sell you in Antarctica. I promise you, it's a great property, great price. You can have a farm on it, raise some cattle, do whatever you want on it, and I will sell it to you for pennies on the dollar, okay? Because if you sit there and look up Mario Kart 8, now there is no information that how much it costs to make, because Nintendo is not going to release that information. But they sold over 75 million copies worldwide. At $60 a piece, that's over 4 billion. Then you sit there and take out what the retailers get, you know, and I just sat there and took it across the board, because you know a lot of that is in digital sales also, where Nintendo got to keep all that money. They still made over $2 billion. And that game was nowhere near cost even close to $1 billion. Okay, so they profited over $1 billion on that game alone. And that's not including the DLC. That is not including any of the expansions that came out with it. Okay, they could have sold that game at $30 and they still would have made a profit. Do you understand that? Okay, well, I'm done with Austin. Austin is not a real gamer. He does not care about his subscribers. He is using you guys, but you guys just won't see it. So do not listen to Austin. Do not let him convince you to sit here and waste your money. You need to hold out and have Nintendo lower their prices. Now, let's get into another YouTuber, and I forgot what her name is, but I'll sit there and say it in a second the next time I talk. She, unfortunately, is following suit just like Austin is. Let's take a look.
you can already get your hands on a Nintendo Switch 2 pre-order. This is not a drill. So while you can register your interest on Currys or Smiths, if you head to Argos right now on the website, you can already pre-order a Nintendo Switch 2. The price of the pre-order of just the console alone is £395.99, or you can get it with a bundle with Mario Kart World for $429.99. There's been a lot of controversy about whether or not this is a fair price for the console and also the game, so I'd love to know your thoughts. Personally, although I do feel like it is fairly expensive, I will say, considering inflation, it feels like it's not that much of a step up from the original Nintendo Switch when that was released back in 2017. However, I do understand the price of the game is quite a lot. However, if there's one thing that I'm feeling really confident about saying, is that Nintendo games are known for their quality, especially when it comes to Mario Kart. So although it is on the pricier side, you can guarantee you're going to get a lot of hours playtime. And no, I'm not sponsored for saying that, it's just my thoughts. Let me know, are you going to be pre-ordering a brand new Nintendo Switch 2?
You know, there are many indie games that are known for their quality. Okay, but guess what? They're not worth no $80, $90 because they don't compare to the AAA games. Mario Kart is not up there. Okay, I would understand a little bit more if it would have been a Zelda game, but still, I would never sit there and say a Zelda game should be $80, $90. Okay, you're just so much in love with Nintendo, you're a fangirl, so you're trying to dole down the impact that what this is bringing to the market. You know, even though I'm more of a Sony person than I am Nintendo, this is going to affect the whole market. Okay, do you not think that other people are going to be sitting there looking at this like, oh, well, we're going to do what Nintendo does because Nintendo can get away with overcharging their fans for these games that do not compare to AAA games. Okay, she is full of shit. All she's doing is trying to get you guys to sit there and pre-order this stuff. That's all she's doing. Even though she did sit there and say, oh, it is expensive, but Nintendo's known for their quality. But guess what? You're not going to get the value, okay? There's no value that you're going to get for an $80, $90 Mario Kart World.
Console is $450. It's technically $449.99.
We round up.
I'm rounding up by a penny. Sue me. They should be taken out of circulation. Games will be sold up to and including $80, and that includes Mario Kart World. That's going to retail at $80, although it's not clear yet whether that's physical or digital. It's just the MSRP. Thanks for being clear, Nintendo, at $80 physical. But DK is going to retail at $70. So there is clearly a sort of like a tier system that Nintendo is working with. Now, considering the previous price structure, the most expensive game released on Switch 1 was Tears of the Kingdom, and that was $70. So this is an increase in price of $10 for the top tier, as it were. I don't think I'm alone. In fact, I know I'm not when I say that this is disappointing.
Yeah.
That there's an increase.
It's a big increase. To me, I can't really conceptualize the price before I see it in my currency, and the prices have not been, because they're always...
Okay, next we got none other than Nintendo Life. Now, Nintendo Life is a very big, almost at 1 million subscriber YouTube channel. They made a career because of Nintendo. So they need Nintendo to survive. Yes, they just sat there and said that it's disappointing, just like the previous girl did. But you know, later on in their episode, they're gonna sit there and try to justify the prices. Just you wait. I will show you. Here, just wait.
At the Direct, and we were really excited. We briefly saw in the end, oh, the price has been revealed for the console, and we talked about that. I think the console price is fine. It is a premium thing, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, it's expensive, but it's an expensive device. You know, it's not, I mean, people will gladly spend $1,000 on a phone, sometimes $2,000 on a phone. So, whilst I'm not saying that's okay, I'm just saying people do that, you know? Which I don't understand. I think I spent like, what, 500 quid on my phone? I don't know.
Yeah, so for the amount of time I'll be playing on the Switch, to me, it's definitely worth it. I'm also working at Nintendo Life, so I kind of need it. But yeah, then the price of the games came out. And this is where a lot of people are very disappointed, and understandably so. That is a big increase for games.
It is,
depending on which games will have this price. Even Donkey Kong is 70. And I think the thing that bugs me the most is that, at least when I checked the Spanish my Nintendo shop, you would have Mario Kart for 80 euros, and that's digitally. If you want it physically, though, that's 90 euros. That is so much money.
Yeah.
It's not a premium thing. All it is an outdated system. The Switch 2 is outdated compared to a PC, compared to a PS5, even compared to the freaking Xbox, for crying out loud. It has PS4 hardware. Okay, so yeah, it is supposed to get some like newer games. Like, it is going to have Borderlands 4. Now, I don't know if it's going to be released at the exact same time as PS5 and PC and Xbox are getting it, but I guarantee you it's not going to be the same damn game. It's going to have a lot of missing content. The graphics are going to be toned down. The game is just not going to be nearly as good as it would be on the other actual consoles. Because I've said this before, this is not a console. The Switch 2 is not a console. Okay, it is a freaking handheld system that just happens to connect to a TV. Look, they have pretty much been doing that. You were able to play Game Boy Color games on the consoles. You were able to play the DS games on the consoles. You were able to play the 3DS and the Switch. Or no, the Switch is the console, never mind. But you were able to play other stuff on the Wii. You were able to play these games on the actual consoles. They just sat there, took out the console, and said, oh, well here, we're going to sit there and take our handheld and just let it connect to the TV. That's all that they did. Okay, so no. And I actually did agree that it was okay at $450. I know my previous videos, so we were going to be like, oh, well, you said on this one. Listen, I didn't have all the information at that damn time. Okay, I didn't know that in Japan, you're getting the exact same console that just had a Japanese version. That's it. So no English. So you couldn't have an English. You couldn't change the language at $330. Oh, whoopity fuckity do. Because you could only get one language, it automatically makes it $120 more.
Games. DK is also 70 euros for digitally and 80 euros for physically. So I don't know. It's really a shame. And to make matters even worse, like for example, the pack-in game, which is not a pack-in game, you have to buy it. I feel like Nintendo is getting a little. My problem is that Nintendo is making so much money already. They're one of the most profitable. They make so much money. They could easily still have the games. I know inflation and all that. Maybe like $70. That would be the new norm. But going all the way up to 80, I feel like that's pushing it. At least just in my personal opinion.
I am still thoroughly disappointed, but I don't think that Nintendo is at least entirely to blame. They may well be partly to blame, but there are a lot of different factors involved. A big one being the new tariffs in the US. Which I'm sure everyone is absolutely thrilled about.
Nintendo Life, you can blame the tariffs all you want. That might be a little bit of the reason. But you sit there and say like, oh, Nintendo's not mainly to blame. No, this is mainly the price point that they set was before the tariffs. They pulled the pre-orders, okay? So this was all corporate greed. Nothing more than Nintendo lining their fucking pockets so they can sit there and screw over the gamers. That's what they're doing. Okay, because I've even said this before. I'm not going to go through thoroughly in depth, but you look at it, Nintendo made over $2 billion on the low point of Mario Kart 8. So you're going to sit there and tell me that it costs even close to that amount to make. Okay, these tariffs will raise it a little bit. There is no doubt about that. But you know, I'm a fair and reasonable person. So at the $450, that's what it should be. But unfortunately, Nintendo hasn't released what they're going to raise. They know how much it's going to cost. They know how much the tariffs are going up, but they're afraid to sit there and release it at the full price. I think what they're going to do is wait like maybe a couple weeks before it's actually supposed to be shipped. I think more in May, like 2 weeks before the system's supposed to be released. That's when we're going to find out the real price point, and they're going to piss off so many more people. Just remember, everybody, I've said this before, Wii U did fail. Remember that.
That is definitely going to be a factor. And a lot of people, I'm sure, will say that the tariffs were announced fully after this was revealed. Nintendo couldn't have known. They knew it was going to happen. They would have put a sort of a barrier in there, a sort of a margin to make sure they could absorb that. Because Nintendo aren't a charity. They're not going to absorb that cost. I don't think anyone should be expected to. Which, of course, leads us to the consumers, who always have to absorb these costs. That's just the way it goes. It's disgustingly unfair, to say the least. There are a number of other factors involved. The cost of development is increasing, obviously. And, you know, they have people that they need to pay and things like that. And historically, Nintendo doesn't actually have a particularly high salary for its higher-ups, all things considered. It's a very high salary for any normal person. It's still millions of dollars. And Japan is another factor as well. The yen is currently really weak.
See, just like I said, now they're justifying the reasoning behind it because they really want to buy this game because they're so addicted to Nintendo. Because they want to buy this game so bad, they have to convince themselves and other people it's okay to spend that much. No, it's not okay. Refuse to buy it. That's all you have to do. It's not going to go anywhere. If everyone refused to buy this game, they will drop it. This game should be no more than $60. Okay, it is a Nintendo IP, for crying out loud. Nintendo games do not meet the standards of what AAA games are. You can fight me all you want. It's a simple fact. You can refuse to accept it. But you know what? Nintendo life, you know, I actually really did enjoy you also, but now you're sitting there helping Nintendo rip off the fan base. This is unacceptable. And you know what? You're going to go on about, oh, well, the development cost, and then you are, oh, well, the salaries are low. Listen, I'm not going to feel bad that because Nintendo doesn't want to absorb the cost, well, if Nintendo absorbs the cost, that they get one less luxury car a year. I'm not going to feel bad on that. Fuck Nintendo. Fuck those people. Fuck the people that are, you know, collecting millions of dollars. I'm not going to feel bad. I don't care if they have to sit there and take a cut. I don't give a fuck about it. I care about gaming in general. And if everybody sits there and accepts Nintendo's price point, then the rest of the industry is going to go up also because Nintendo is overinflating. You guys are overinflating Nintendo. Nintendo is the bootleg version of the gaming industry. Do you understand that? Their games are slightly above, they're just barely above the indie level. Do you understand that? All right, well, that's it for my reaction. I know this was a huge angry rant, but if you enjoyed my video, please give it a like, share, and subscribe. It really helps me out. And until next time, stay vigilant.